Oh, we do spend a lot of time in old New England cemeteries, Jeff.
Yeah, we do, Ray. It's where a lot of our stories begin. Right here at the end of the line for, everyone else.
Now, we're currently standing in Old Hadley Cemetery in Hadley, Massachusetts. And when they say old, they mean old.
Yeah.
We just passed a headstone that was dated 1661.
This is the oldest cemetery in town. It was established in 1660, just 1 year after the town's founding.
The cemetery is in a pretty spot. It's surrounded by farm fields. The Connecticut River is about a quarter of a mile over there. It's really peaceful here.
It is. And though the person we're looking for doesn't have a headstone, she's buried here somewhere close by.
Now, who are we looking for?
Ray, we're looking for a local woman who was hanged for witchcraft, but survived. We're on the hunt for half-hanged Mary. Hi, I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger. Welcome to episode 261 of the New England Legends podcast.
Thank you for joining us as we explore the ghosts, monsters, witches, warlocks, and other oddities of New England. We're a community of legend seekers who love exploring the weird side of our region, and there's plenty here. We love when you get involved because most of our story leads, they come from you. You should join our super secret Facebook group, follow us on social media, and of course, subscribe to our weekly podcast because it's free wherever you get your podcasts, and we don't want you to miss a thing.
Now, before we go looking for this witch of Hadley, we want to take just a minute to tell you about our sponsor, Nuati Herbals.
It's been a while since we've heard from Nuati Herbals founder, Rod Jackson. Rod, what have you guys been up to?
Last weekend, Kimberly and I got a rare moment to go camping. We always get to know the people around us, so when we set up camp, we introduced ourselves to our neighbors, and one of the couples told us that the mosquitoes were pretty bad and we might need some of this. They handed us a bottle of Mosquito. Kimberly and I laughed and told them, well, we have our own. They replied, it probably doesn't work as well as this, so we showed them our bottle. They laughed and said, where did you buy yours? We told them we didn't buy it, we make it. They couldn't believe it, so we had to show them our business card. We love it when our customers recommend our products to us, but the mosquitoes don't.
That's a great story. And no, the mosquitoes are no fan of Mosquito from Nuati Herbals.
Let Nuati Herbals help support your healthy lifestyle. Check out the Nuati Herbals website to see all their great products, and you get 20% off your order when you use the promo code LEGENDS20 at checkout. Please visit nuatiherbals.com. That's Nuwati herbals with an S.com.
All right, Jeff. So this Witch of Hadley is buried in an unmarked grave. What else do we know about her?
We know her name was Mary Webster. We know the best-selling book, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, is dedicated to her.
Ah, The Handmaid's Tale. That was made into a television series on Hulu.
Yeah, that's the one.
I think season 5 of the series comes out soon.
It does. Now, the book and the series owe their inspiration to a woman buried somewhere close by where we're standing right now.
That's kind of amazing that there's no monument here.
So Mary Webster was accused of being a witch here in Hadley in 1683. That's 9 years before the Salem witch trials, if you're keeping score.
And we're always keeping score.
We are. So let's head back to 1682 and meet Mary.
It's the fall of 1682 here in the small farming community of Hadley, and we're taking our horse-drawn carriage down the middle highway through Hadley.
I can see we're coming up on a small house just off the road here. Why'd you stop the horse, Ray?
I didn't. He stopped on his own.
That's strange. This is the home of William and Mary Webster.
Now, a little background on this couple. Mary was born in nearby Springfield. She married William in 1670 when she was about in her mid-40s, and he was in his mid-50s. But since then, the couple have fallen on hard times.
Unable to make ends meet, the Websters have occasionally become wards of the town, meaning the people in Hadley have been forced to deliver firewood to them, food, and anything else they need.
Now, we've seen this before. Sometimes locals don't take kindly to having to take care of others. They may question how come these folks can't take care of themselves.
And it doesn't help when Mary acts ungrateful for the handouts. She can't help herself when she hears those snide comments. She often fires back with harsh words of her own. Living like this has made Mary bitter toward the whole world. And the feeling from the world is soon mutual.
Now, as time passes, stories start to circulate around Hadley that maybe Mary is a witch. Plus, strange things are happening in and around this house.
Like what?
Now, for one, When people are riding their cattle and horses by the house, the animals will stop right here and refuse to pass.
That happened to us.
When this happens, the neighbors will barge into Mary's home and beat her. And then the animals will be able to move along once again.
Okay, I'm not going into that house to beat an old woman.
I'm with you.
So I heard other strange stories about this house as well. Let's go inside. More than one neighbor told me they've been inside this house when a hen falls down the chimney right into a boiling pot over the kitchen hearth.
Wow, that's crazy.
And soon after, people noticed a burn mark on Mary.
Well, I imagine a scared chicken falling into a boiling pot of water would splash hot water everywhere, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, if you're nearby, you're going to get burned.
Maybe Mary is a witch.
It's March 27th, 1683, when formal charges of witchcraft are brought against Mary Webster. The charges from the magistrates at Northampton read, and I quote, Mary, wife of William Webster of Hadley, being under strong suspicion of having familiarity with the devil or using witchcraft, had many testimonies brought in against her, or that did seem to center upon her relating to such a thing.
The court at Northampton claims they're not equipped to handle a witchcraft case. So Mary Webster is sent to the Court of Assistance in Boston. Through the month of April and most of May, Mary Webster has to wait in a Boston jail until her court date, which finally arrives May 22nd. Ray, go ahead and read the charges against her.
Okay. The court record states, quote, the grand jury being impaneled, they, on pursual of the evidence, returned that they did indict Mary Webster for that she, not having the fear of God before her eyes, and being instigated by the devil, hath entered into covenant, and had familiarity with him in the shape of a warnage.
A warnage is a fisher or a wild black cat. The charges also claim Mary Webster had some strange marks on her body.
So the main evidence is that she didn't have the fear of God in her eyes and some marks on her body?
Yeah, that's right. Plus the testimony of her neighbors saying that she's mean. Now, after her arraignment, Mary is placed back in jail until her trial on June 1st. The court examines the charges and evidence and renders their verdict. Ray, you might as well read that one too.
It says, Mary Webster was now called and brought to the bar and was indicted, to which indictment she pleaded not guilty, making no exception against any of the jury, leaving herself to be tried by God and the country. The indictment and evidences in the case were read and committed to the jury, and the jury brought in their verdict that they found her not guilty.
Thank goodness, right?
Well, that settles it, right? She's free to go?
Mary Webster is free to go back to her home in Hadley. She's been in jail for months. Though the courts ruled Mary not guilty of witchcraft, her neighbors are not convinced.
Still, life returns to normal. Well, normal for the Websters. They still need handouts. Their neighbors still don't like Mary, and Mary still scorns and scoffs back.
It's the winter of 1684, late December, and 50-year-old Lieutenant Philip Smith of Hadley isn't feeling well. Philip Smith is a church deacon. He's a justice in the county court. He's a prominent man, and now he's taken with a strange illness. His doctors are perplexed. Smith is growing weaker by the day. He's delirious.
Smith is convinced he's bewitched. He tells his brother, who is tending to him, that he won't be dead when people think he is. Smith demands that his brother keep careful watch should he appear dead. His brother agrees.
In the early days of January, Smith complains that he's feeling sharp pins pricking him in his toe and in his arm. But there's nothing there when he's examined. Smith's voice is delirious. He's speaking in strange tones and words.
For those close to Lieutenant Smith, they're convinced he's being attacked by a witch, and there's no question as to who is the cause. It must be Mary Webster.
As a church deacon and justice in the county court, Smith has had dealings with Mary Webster. Now, with Smith on his deathbed, a number of young Hadley men march over to Mary Webster's home. They drag her from the house.
This is terrible. They're placing a rope around her neck and tossing the other end over a tree branch. I can't watch this.
This is awful. Mary's struggling to breathe.
Oh, her body just went limp. I think she's dead.
The men are bringing her limp body down now. What are they?
They're burying her. Look, in the snow.
Oh, my gosh.
And now they're walking away. This is inhuman.
Meanwhile, back at Lieutenant Smith's home, his family have already heard the death rattle. Finally, on January 10th, Smith dies.
Here's the craziest thing. Mary Webster, she's alive.
What?
Yeah. After the men left her buried in the frozen snow, she sat up and walked home.
Given that she was found not guilty at her trial and survived a hanging attempt, the people of Hadley believe maybe they should leave her alone.
And if anyone was on the fence about Mary being a witch before, they're convinced now.
Right.
But they're afraid enough to keep their distance. Anyone who survives a hanging is more powerful than most would care to reckon with.
Mary Webster dies 10 years after Lieutenant Smith in 1696. And that brings us back to today.
This story is all too familiar.
It is. We've covered other stories that sound similar to Half-Hanged Mary. There's Aunt Ginny of Hillsborough, New Hampshire.
Oh, that's right. Animals refused to pass her house as well.
And there's Eunice Cole, the witch of Hampton, New Hampshire.
Yep, she was a ward of the town, and no one liked the bitter old woman.
But Half-Hanged Mary may be the most famous now because she inspired author Margaret Atwood to write The Handmaid's Tale, which she published in 1985.
For those who don't know, The Handmaid's Tale is a modern dystopia where a fundamentalist religious group runs the government. Birth rates are plummeting, so women become the property of the state. And the few fertile women still around are forced into sexual servitude. It's truly dark, as the story takes you through the brainwashing of the women and as we see how they attempt to survive this living hell.
In a 2017 interview for The World, Margaret Atwood claimed her grandmother sometimes said she was related to Mary Webster and sometimes denied it. Either way, it inspired Atwood to write a poem called Half-Hanged Mary. The first stanza reads, "When they came to harvest my corpse, open your mouth, close your eyes, cut my body from the rope, surprise, surprise, I was still alive." And the poem ends with, "Before, I was not a witch, but now I am one."
Mary Webster's story is dark, whether in poetry or prose.
Yeah. Now, in that same 2017 interview, Atwood said, and I'm quoting here, "I was actually trying to write a novel about her," meaning Mary, "but unfortunately, I didn't know enough about the late 17th century to be able to do it. So, Atwood set the tale in modern times."
If you're paying attention to politics lately, we all know the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. Many politicians are mentioning The Handmaid's Tale specifically, that we're currently headed for times like those for women.
Well, we don't know for certain what the future holds. We do know how women have been treated in the past. Accuse one of being a witch, and there was no limit to how poorly you could treat them.
And that brings us to After the Legend, where we take a deeper dive into the story and sometimes veer off course a bit.
Sometimes, yeah, that happens. After the Legend is sponsored by our Patreon patrons. Our Patreon patrons are an amazing group of insiders who keep us going and growing. They help us out with our hosting, production, marketing costs, all the expenses it takes to bring you a new story each week for the last 5 years. If you can help the cause, it's just $3 per month, and you'll get early access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. Just head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up. So, last week was our 5-year anniversary show.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. We didn't even mention it. We've said before, every time we hit some sort of milestone, this could be someone's first episode.
Right.
And so let's just keep it, as we do.
Yeah.
And
but it's nice to mention.
But we should have said something.
It wasn't even in the back of our heads.
So this is our 5-year and 1 week anniversary show.
It was a long week of celebrating.
Right.
Now here we are.
And here we are talking about another witch. We have talked about many over the years.
We're in New England.
We are in New England. And what I love about witch trials is that it translates to modern times so well.
Oh, especially with this story right here, talking about The Handmaid's Tale, which I've seen the first few seasons, haven't caught up. But it's so scary that it could happen. I mean, and now in today's times, we could be moving in that direction. When that broke, the Roe versus Wade, I thought The Handmaid's Tale. The first thing that popped in my head was The Handmaid's Tale.
Politicians were saying this is not Handmaid's Tale is now a documentary, right? And and because everybody's fired up and confused because whether you agree with what the Supreme Court did or not, it left a legal vacuum across the nation of what's allowed, what's not allowed, and there's a lot of confusion right now, and a lot of people are scared that maybe this is the first step of many. And I understand we live in strange times. But one thing too about the story, there was something I thought about it when we said it. How animals wouldn't pass by Mary
Right.
Webster's house until they went in and beat Mary.
They had to beat Mary. The cow had to know that Mary was lying in a pool of blood.
So do you think the cows were like watching and said, oh my gosh, like move, this guy's...
Do you think they felt bad about stopping knowing that Mary was going to get beaten?
I'm sure what was more likely was that those folks didn't like her at all and would stop their animals and give an excuse to go in and beat this woman that, was old and they were angry at her.
The horse stopped, Mary. No, you pulled on the reins. I saw that. No, the horse stopped on its own.
The horse definitely stopped, and I'm here to, and this is what's so awful. So a few things, and there's so much about this we don't know. I do want to mention a couple of things. Most of what we know about this story comes from two sources. The first one is Cotton Mather's 1702 book, Magnalia Christi Americana, which is a book we've quoted before multiple times. And Mather uses the story of Lieutenant Philip Smith to claim he was murdered by witchcraft in 1684. So what Mather was trying to do was say, the devil's real, witchcraft is real, it's here in New England. Here's a specific case where this man died at the hands of a witch. So that was proof for him that the devil's in New England. But the second source is Sylvester Judd's 1905 book, History of Hadley.
Related to John, by the way?
John Judd, our musician aficionado. Let's say yes.
Okay.
Because he's from New
that
England.
Would be so cool. Wouldn't that be cool?
They're both from New England. Let's say sure. But his book is mainly like taking the folklore of the town and sort of repeating it, that people said this and people said that. But The Handmaid's Tale really gave a shot in the arm to Mary's story because, the book was dedicated to her, and it sort of forces you to look back and say, well, what happened here? And that was a time, think about like how awful that was, where, and we've seen it again and again, where people couldn't take care of themselves. They became wards of the town.
Right.
And
an inconvenience for most.
And an inconvenience, and people were angry about it. But there's something strange, and we're never going to know. But Mary was in her 40s when she got married to a guy in his 50s.
That's old back then.
Back then, that is extremely old to be.
The end of the golden years.
We don't know if they had children. We think not, but we don't know, and we don't know if if Mary had previous previous marriage or whatever, or if he did. I don't know. But so something may have been off with these two, that they got together later in life, and. On the one hand, so Eunice Cole and Aunt Ginny, right? These were widows who weren't allowed to own land, weren't allowed to have jobs and things like that. And so the town had to take care of them. That's the deal.
Right.
But this was a couple.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people are like, why can't you two farm or do something? And
figure it out.
And we don't know. We don't know if there was a mental disability, a physical disability. We don't know.
Don't we have family? Everyone has family like this.
Oh, we do.
It's like, why can't the two of you take care of each other?
Why
am I coming over here again?
Why can't you get a job? Right? Why can't you work?
And it's usually aunt and uncle. It's a cousin or two cousins. But yeah, alone I can see that.
Right.
Somebody that can't take care of themselves. But there's two people in that house.
So this
40s
is a
and 50s. Old, but not that old.
No, and so and I don't have the answer to that, but obviously our speculation can't be too far off because people were upset, thinking like, okay, yeah, we'll take care of people that really, really need it, but we don't know if you fall into that category. And there must have been something because Mary was angry and would, I get it. You come over to help someone, and you're like, here, I'm sharing my food with you because I have to, and you're being, nasty about it. That's going to create a lot of resentment.
Right.
Like, oh, my church pastor tells me I have to do this, but
so I think you just make the claim that she's a witch and hope that somebody's going to hang her.
And by the way, when she's nasty to me and nasty to you and all these other neighbors, think about it. All you have to say is like, she's a mean old lady. I've known lots of mean old ladies.
Sure.
We don't kill them.
No, but you call her a witch, right? Oh, she's such a witch. Sometimes it's the other rhyme. But
it rhymes with witch.
But witch comes up. If somebody's being nasty, if somebody's being foul, you think of them as a witch, and a mean old witch.
Meanwhile, for some people, life just grinds them down.
Yeah.
And the only thing they know is to lash out because they're just hurting so badly. And I think that's a tragedy, but that is how some people choose to deal with the challenge of life. Others become sweet and just bake cookies for everybody and try to make, the world as happy as they can, but some people are just incapable.
That's like Glenda, the good witch.
The good witch.
Yes.
She's the one that's like, come in for cookies and cocoa and we'll talk about it. But yeah, no, these stories, it's funny how they become relevant. Witch trial stories, we've said again and again, witch trials happen at your local PTA meeting. They happen at the sports board. They happen at your neighborhood associations. They happen in local politics. They happen in national politics. Everybody throws the word out. Oh, this is a witch hunt.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I'm being accused of something. And that in itself, right, becomes, maybe you really did something. Right? Sometimes people really are guilty and they're being investigated, but they say, this is a witch hunt. I'm like many innocent victims that have come before me. I'm guilty of no such thing, and so you play this martyr, and then people have to think, because they go, oh yeah, well we have a long history of accusing people of witchcraft and trying them and executing them. Whether execution today means literal or your career is executed, or your or your reputation. These witch trial stories are still relevant, and especially this one, considering the Handmaid's Tale. And we really don't know what the future brings, but we do know what the past has been, where women couldn't vote, where women couldn't own land, where and geez, up into the 1900s, where a man could just tell the local asylum, my wife's crazy and I want her committed, because you're just, come on. Like that's dark times. That's
before divorce, you would just claim she was crazy, and somebody would come wheel her away.
Right. And that's that. And so, so when people get afraid for all the rights that women have fought for, that they're going to start to disappear, those fears are not unfounded. And no matter where you stand on Roe versus Wade, I would hope that we would be sensitive to the fact that millions of people are really scared right now. And stories like this sort of remind us why.
Hey, we love when you guys share your own local legends with us. If you have a story and you think that we should check it out, please reach out to us through our website, through the Super Secret Facebook group, or on our social media. Most of our story leads come from you guys.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, New Audi Herbals. I'd like to thank our Patreon patrons. And, of course, our theme music is by Sylvester Judd's long-lost cousin, John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
the bazaar is closer than you think.